anxious, but she finally started eating, so that's good.
Talking
Listen,
about dogs.
I know we're over here talking about dogs. Well, maybe that's a little bit of the challenge right now. There's not enough dog in the Seattle Storm team, and we know they are hungry for a win. But Roberta, they haven't been able to come up with one. See how I made that little blooper into a transition?
Yeah, you like those. You like those. You've already told me that you like a good transition, so I think that was a really good one.
Excellent. Well, welcome to another episode of Tempestade Talk. We keep a local eye on the Seattle Storm. Erica L. Ayala here, along with Roberta F. Rodriguez. And listen, we knew this was going to be growing pains, right, for this Seattle Storm team. It's one thing to know that and see the potential of a team, and it's another to kind of see them experiencing some of the growing pains comparative to where the rest of the league is right now. But that's a little bit of the challenge too, right, Roberta? We haven't even seen the Storm take on some of the heavier hitters in the WNBA, and there are still some things that we're noticing early on. But before we break all of that down, we're definitely going to talk about Awa Fam and her first start. Thank you, getting a start. We love to see it, but it's really an anemic offense right now. But let's start with going over your post-game reaction to the most recent Seattle Storm game at Climate Pledge Arena.
Roberta Rodriguez with Black Rose Media, coming to you from Climate Pledge Arena, where the Seattle Storm played the Phoenix Mercury and lost 72-68. That makes a 4-game losing streak for this team that now ranks not 11th, ranks 14th in the WNBA. We did see lots of improvements. We saw better shooting, we saw better executing, but it still wasn't enough to win the game. A lot of energy in the second and the third quarter as they were able to come back from a 13-point loss. They even took the lead at some point, but again, Phoenix had the upper hand. The main concern now is that the Seattle Storm schedule in the next 5 games, they have 4 teams that would be in the playoffs if the regular season ended today. So it's going to be a rough path for them. They have a lot to learn. They have learned a lot already. Awa Fam was definitely a highlight of this game, and we are going to talk all about it on the Tempestade Talk this Thursday, either today with this post goes or tomorrow. So
Right now.
we're going to talk about the Storm at Tempestade Talk 6:30. Bye, everyone.
Right now, exactly. We're going to do it right now. So again, early trends are we're seeing it is nominal gains, right? It's not like there's a lack of improvement. It's just hard when that comes up against still losses.
Yeah, and it's not even that it's losses. I was talking to another one of my media peers in the media role. What has been frustrating is not that the team is losing, it is that the team is just not performing. The execution is not there. Um, at here and there, like yesterday, you see glimpses of what this team could be, both offensively and defensively, but you still can't figure out what the big picture is. You can't really tell what's the plan. Partially, and that goes back to what you just said, we haven't really had a chance to have a full picture Seattle Storm. Because first, the number 3 pick of this draft was away for international commitments. The number 2 pick from last year is out with a concussion. And Ezi the highest paid player in the team, the one who's supposed to lead the team, is out with a left foot injury. She's out with an injury. So additionally, Katie Lou Samuelson was out. She didn't start playing until about 3 games ago. Jordan Horston was completely out last season. There is a lot that we still haven't been able to learn about the Storm because we haven't had the opportunity to basically watch the Seattle Storm as it is supposed to be. We get they put pieces together, and I feel that at least two players now in the starting lineup are going to be bench players when Ezi and Dom are back. So we are being able to see what the second unit can bring, but we still don't know what the full power is going to offer.
Let's stick there just for a minute, because you mentioned that we maybe are starting to see that, because there are a lot of things, like you said, to break down. So let's talk about it, because actually I don't think we really talked about Katie Lou Samuelson coming into the lineup, and that seems a little bit like it's on the periphery, right, of the bigger conversation people are having, and I want to talk about it here. So with Katie Lou Samuelson, now this is someone who's missed the last 2 full seasons.
Yeah.
It's been a while
Yeah.
since Katie Lou Samuelson has played basketball, at a competitive level. So that's one thing. But the other question, when Katie Lou came to Seattle, the idea and the concept was, is this going to be a player that can effectively stretch the floor because of perimeter shooting? So what are we seeing from Katie Lou specific to this season, Roberta? And do you have a sense of how a really fully, basketball, at basketball pace and at basketball fitness, Katie Lou can impact this team?
Yeah, I've mentioned here in this podcast, I've talked to people offline about how much I appreciate Katie Lou Samuelson and how I've enjoyed her basketball since her UConn years.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like she hasn't really had the opportunity to show her full capacity in the league, point blank. I think that that's the main situation, the main case. When you look at her first season with the Sky, she played only 20 games. When she played her second season with Dallas, it was only 22 games. And she wasn't really a starter until 2021 with the Seattle Storm. And I'm looking here, it's looking at stats. So you haven't really seen her. And then with the Storm, it was her best shooting year in 2021. She shot 45.6%. And I think that that's what the Storm saw that they want her to bring this season. She has played 5 games so far. Her shooting from the field is 36.8%. She's shooting 33%, which is not ideal. Right. I strongly believe that the expectation and the goal for Katie Lou Samuelson is to be a 3-point shooter. She has only had 15 attempts in those 5 games. When you're talking about a shooter, you want her to have more. So of course, right now we have Zaya Cook being much more with a much higher contribution in that end. On that end, Natasha Heineman, I mean, we don't even have to say anything right now because she is a whole other conversation. But I think that Katie Lou is expected to have that. She's supposed to be taking the lead on the 3-point shooting, and she's also supposed to be a veteran leadership. And we're still not seeing that. I believe that it has to do with her injury. I think it was an ACL. I can't really remember. So she went through a lot. It reminds me a lot. I mean, I can't help but draw the parallel with Nika Mio, because we also don't know what she's going to be like. And so I keep thinking about how Katie Lou hasn't really had a chance to show. Sorry, I think fell. To show what she can bring. She has here and there, but is that enough for the Seattle Storm so far? She has played 5 games, and which means the last 5 Storm games, the Storm lost 4 of them. So of course, I'm not saying that the Storm lost because of Katie Lou, by no means, but it's not making the winning difference. It's not bringing that difference that's going to allow the team to win. So
Yeah.
I think that it is the Storm made a decision. We know that the Storm is a team. The front office is a team that rewards loyalty. They like to keep players. So I think that that's where her resigning came from. I do believe it's still going to take a couple more games for her to be able to get into full game shape and have solid contributions.
Yeah, Katie Lou is tough because it's hard to have that conversation without having a conversation about injuries. And then if you have a conversation about injuries and if a player should or shouldn't have a contract, I mean, that gets into dicey water for a lot of different reasons, including that there's just no way to know until she gets back on the court. So I think that let's just go with the ship has sailed, so to speak, and you have to have these games before you can get optimized Katie Lou, right? And so, like you said, the in the last 5 games, 4 out of those 5 have been losses, and it's by no means because Katie Lou Samuelson, like that. That is it's not the reason. It's not the impetus. It's not the driving factor. It just happens to be that's how things shake out. And again, I think it's about letting Katie Lou get that feel back, get the fitness back, and likely get not just the touch, but the confidence back, right?
Absolutely.
That has to happen. And so this is where we have to kind of curb the expectations. It's a different conversation than we were having in the last 2 seasons, even though I don't want to say it's exactly the same result, but it feels sometimes like here's another season where we can see what the Storm need to do and it's not getting done. With all due respect to the last few rosters, a roster that has Nneka Ogwumike, Skylar Diggins, Ezi Magbagor, Dominique Malonga, Gabby Williams, at depending on when we're talking, Brittany Sykes, Erica Wheeler, underperforming compared to compared to a very young and a very new roster lacking consistency. Those can feel the same from a observation perspective. They are not the same.
No, and it comes to when you look at the bottom of the stands in the WNBA, you have Mercury, Storm, Sun.
Yep.
There's not a lot of mystery as to why the Storm and the Sun are at the bottom.
Yeah.
It's, for me, the concerning part is why is the Phoenix Mercury there? So that's the type of conversation. I think that's kind of like what we're trying to talk about when mentioning the previous rosters, because this current Seattle Storm roster, they are not built to win now. They're not built to go to the playoffs. I feel they don't have the responsibility. Of course, that every athlete, it's not about what a player wants. We're talking about roster construction. This is not a roster that is meant to make the playoffs. No. Unlike the Phoenix Mercury that has Dewana Bonner, Kalia Copper, and Alyssa Thomas. Unlike the 2025 and 2024 Seattle Storm that had Nneka Ogwumike, Skylar Diggins, and Gabby Williams, and the previous year had Jewel Lloyd with this team.
Yes,
so when you look at it, it's not only about not winning a championship, but fully underperforming, completely not meeting the expectations, which is what we saw last year, the previous years. And we know the reasons why. Now it is more clear why the team was not winning and the struggles that they were dealing with off the court that was impacting their on the court. This season for the Storm, for me, fully basketball. I don't think it has anything to do with locker room, player coach disagreement. My opinion is that the Seattle Storm struggle this year is fully and exclusively basketball. It's not a team that is at the level of playoff teams, and we're seeing that.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. Striatic also mentioning that the broadcast talked about getting to the paint. Now, this has been something, honestly, not just Seattle is struggling with, that I think a lot of teams are struggling with. And it goes back to that already we've had coaches and players call out what they feel are inconsistencies. I think those things are related, not just for the Seattle Storm, but I think we're seeing just it's a little bit off kilter when it comes to getting the ball into the paint, which makes for a really odd form of basketball, in my opinion. But so I do think that there might be something there on a league level, and the quickest way to get your defense, your defense. We'll talk about defense. To get your offense is what I meant to say. The quickest way to get your offense accelerated is to take easy shots, or at least high probability shots, right? The high likelihood that you, as a professional basketball player, should be able to make a layup, things like that. When you get an offensive rebound and then you drop it in off the backboard. Like, these are shots that you should be able to make, right?
Yeah.
But you have to get to that part of the court to make those shots. And what does that go to? It goes to being in good position, and it goes to boxing out.
Boxing out. That's your call, Erica. You have that issue with both teams you cover.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get some custom box out shirts so we can.
I think they do that on purpose, just like to piss you off.
Just to make that, it's my very specific form of rage bait. So that and positionless anything, but I think that is huge. And some of that is you have to decide, right? Yes, the those high probability shots, you want to be able to take those easy shots, those shots that will get you on the board, because that's also what we hear a lot in basketball, right? Is that, what shooters are going to shoot, right? What does that really mean? That just is talking about volume. It's talking about volume, and it stinks to shoot and miss, but the only way that you're going to shoot and make is to get through the misses and get that out of the system, and start to refine the shot selection. But I don't know, I do think sometimes it's shot selection, but I think it's more of the shot location, right? And and where you're at in the shot clock. So the selection is not so much where your feet are on the court, it's about some of the situations. Is it the best shot that's available to you now? If you passed it one more time, could you get a better shot? If you took 2 or 3 more dribbles, could you or someone else get a better shot because the defense collapses? These are things where it's almost like taking a young team, like a team that's learning each other, and then pushing them to the next level, right? Okay, move the ball, get a shot up. That's what you do when you're starting out, right? Let's just try to see what's going to happen, like playground basketball, whatever you want to talk about. But then when you start playing as a team, what are you doing? You're like, okay, we did this playground style. We know what everyone likes to do. We know what people really don't like to do. Now we have to start setting people up to be successful. We have to start making sure that we are protecting ourselves from our team weaknesses, right? And then it's like, okay, now that we've done that, now we can start moving off of the ball in a way where we, again, are optimizing our assets and minimizing the ability for our opponents to expose our weaknesses. And we're just not through that progression yet with the Seattle Storm.
No, we're not. And what it seems is that the Storm, like other teams and some specific players even, it has become some sort of an easy scout. You it's very easy to neutralize the Storm's better attributes. And what has been one of the main hindrances of the Seattle Storm: turnovers. They are not able to finalize plays. They are turning the ball over a lot. So teams know that the Storm's best shot is in the paint, and I actually have the numbers here. So in terms of shot area, the Storm is most efficient in the restricted area and in the paint, which is not surprising.
Right.
Right now Dominique Malonga and Ezi are out, but Dom played a couple games, and now Awa is back playing a couple games. And then you have the 3-point line. So that those are the areas where the Storm is doing better, but teams are being able to neutralize them and to stop the ball from moving way too easily. For me, that's the main concern. And there have been instances, and I can't really pinpoint yet if this is a Jade Melvin issue or if it's a general team issue, that the point guard stops, hold the balls, and literally has to yell to the other players to be in certain positions. Not in a natural game flow way, but you can see that there is clear frustration there, that they just can't. It seems like they are not where they are supposed to be. So defenses are having a field day with the Seattle Storm. Even the fact that the game yesterday, against the Phoenix Mercury, they had a huge opportunity. The Storm had a huge opportunity to come out at the top. They couldn't, and then in the last quarter, they just couldn't hold the end. They couldn't hold the score, and the fourth quarter has been a big problem. The season started with the team starting hot. We would see first quarters that the Storm would go full steam ahead. They would dominate, they would score, and now we're seeing the Storm getting behind in the first and half of the second quarter, and then comes halftime, they are able to recover. Comes third quarter, they may take the lead, and then the team just dies. Just turnovers after turnovers. They are not able to finish plays, and the frustration about that is starting to showing up very quickly. The game yesterday against the Mercury was at the end there, I even thought that there could be some sort of brawl if there was more time, because it got very chippy. Players were being very physical because both sides were extremely frustrated with how both teams were playing, because Phoenix wasn't playing the best either. But what we saw towards the end, there were two, I think, consecutive plays that the Storm attacked, and they turned the ball over. The one Bonner was already on the other end of the court, so all it took was one long pass for Duana Bonner to hit the shot, and then again the Storm got the inbound, drove the ball, turnover. Where was Duana Bonner? Already all the way on the other side. Where were the defenders trying to reach her? So are their legs tired? This is supposed to be a young team. What is happening there?
And that's where I think it is, again, the mental lapses. So Jeff, we know you want them to run plays for players. Again, players that they would likely want to run plays for, unfortunately, are not healthy. But the point about screens, and it's not just about the screens, it's movement, period, right? I just don't think we're seeing enough movement. There's a lot of ball watching that's happening on both sides of the ball, on both sides of the court. And I think that you can say you got to, set plays for XYZ. You have to set more screens. How many times does a coach run something and it's not executed? At some point there has to be execution that happens with the players on the court. Could the coach run more plays and run more sets and run more things that are going to require movement? Sure. I mean, that's always a possibility, right? The other thing is the team going to be able to execute it? Are they going to be able to hit the screen without blowing and are they going to know what to do if the first option gets blown up? Do they know the second motion? Do they know, this is what and so there's a learning curve that when I feel like we're a lot of times vague when we're like, oh, people need time and yes, these are all basketball things. Like any basketball player who's played basketball at any level should know all of the things that we're talking about. But I know that I'm supposed to box out if I go and play basketball. I know that if I move without the ball and if I set screens and if I slash towards the basket, that if I'm not opening something up for me, then I'm potentially opening something up for someone else. But you know what I cannot do? Because I'm not delusional like some people here on the interwebs. What I know I cannot do is go to a WNBA practice and just because I know how to do those things in basketball, think that I'm going to execute them at a WNBA level. And so there is a little bit of that's happening. It's not an excuse. It's the reality of the situation. Now, nobody feels bad for someone having to learn how to catch up with the pace of the WNBA. Literally anyone who's ever come to the league at whatever age they come has to learn that. It has to happen. So there's a frustration because I do think some of these things are very rudimentary. They're very fundamental.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where the frustration comes. Now we can offer grace because of the injuries, because it's a young team, and this team doesn't have the expectations that other teams in the league have. But again, I don't want to get stuck there either, because you know what they should be able to do? Execute a screen.
They should.
They should be able to run a play. They should be able to run through all of the options and also take the best option that's given to them in a shot clock. That's what is expected of WNBA players. So it's this give and take, and not everyone is on the same page with how they're able to execute their position, let alone get things going. And so you talk about Jade. Is it a Jade Melbourne thing? We see that Natisha Heidemann is having to do a lot and carry a lot of the weight offensively.
Yes.
And, I think I maybe mentioned this before, but, I always love talking to point guards about what it means to be the best point guard. And so in a conversation for the Nancy Lieberman Award, we got to ask Nancy specifically, the award's named after her. Why not ask her what she thinks about what a good point guard is? And she told this story. I forget the team, but she told this story about how she crushed it, right? Had this game, leading scorer, leading rebounder, had high assists, doing it all, right? Like triple double, like easy, bang, crushing it. And do you know what her coach said to her?
What?
I need you to get your post player the ball. It wasn't congratulations on getting this record. Congratulations on getting a triple double. Congratulations on being our top scorer. Did you do your job as a guard? Hey, if you're a forward, if you're a post player and you knock down the most 3-pointers in the game, I'm not saying we won't take those. But at the end of the day, if you don't have the most rebounds as a post player, maybe you're not doing your main job. I mean, and I might be projecting a little bit of what I talk about over at Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans, but it's kind of the same. I feel like we're always talking about the parallels between these two teams, right? Because Natisha Heidemann is doing enough to keep this team in games. And unfortunately, the role of a point guard is you got to figure out now how to get somebody else hot. That's part of the job. Not always, but if you're going to be a true point guard, you have to be able to facilitate. I'm not saying it's fair. I'm just saying it is what it is. But what's also true, Roberta, is if your best scorer is your point guard, is that your point guard, or is that a different position? And is that a coaching decision? How much of that is the players on the court identifying, especially if to introduce positionless basketball. If
Yeah.
your point guard is your best shooter, then somebody else maybe needs to help to facilitate so that your best shooter is getting set up to shoot.
Yes, yes. And can I ask you to highlight this comment by Jeff talking about Flau'jae passing on
Flau'jae,
about,
okay.
yeah.
Mhm.
Sorry, it's Flau'jae, not Flau'jae. Maybe I'm saying that wrong. So I think it's interesting that he's mentioning that, because that's not
So let's
exclusive
read it, sorry,
to.
because in case anyone's not watching this
Okay.
or can't see the screen. Anybody notice Flau'jae passed on about 7 or more possible attempts? I believe the coaching staff gets in her head about her attempts. And I think also Jeff mentioned something else earlier. We didn't get to it, but I think what Jeff is offering and that Roberta wants to talk about is Flau'jae or anyone perhaps on the Seattle Storm passing on attempts that potentially could be high quality attempts.
Yeah, so it is interesting that he brings that up, because I do believe we have seen a lot of that with this team when players are close to the basket in the paint or in the restricted area. There was one play specifically yesterday that got the whole, like, I think I've never seen a whole arena go like, why? And so Stephanie Dawson, there was Stephanie Dawson and another Storm player, and then one Mercury defender, and Stephanie was right there on the basket. She could, if she had gone up, she would have made that, but she passed to the wing. And I don't remember if it was a shot or not, but it was so confusing. No one was understanding that, and that was not the first time that it happened. Flau'jae does do that a lot. I do believe that in Flau'jae's case, that could be, getting used to the league and potentially being a little hesitant. But the two players that I've seen attacking the basket more aggressively and without hesitation are the point guards, are Letitia Heineman and Jade Melvin. So and Zaya Cook also. So those are the
But
players.
also a backcourt player.
Also a backcourt player. So
yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ho, with that.
No, go on. I think we have the same point.
Yeah, I think so where do you go from there? And again, it goes back to the Nancy Lieberman thing. I think we'll just shorten it so I don't have to tell the story all the time, although I do love telling that story. But like the Nancy Lieberman effect, right? If your backcourt are your best shooters, who's your point guard? Who's your one? And we see Breanna Stewart has played in Seattle, but that's been a part of her career, right? Is that Stewie is a really, and I don't think she gets enough credit for doing this. She's even done it for USA Basketball, where because of her skill level and how good she can be on the ball, like when you have a player like Breanna Stewart bringing the ball up as a defense, you're like, what is about to happen? Is she going to keep the ball? Is she going to give the ball up and then post me up? Is she going to slash? Is she running baseline? You see what I'm saying? So like, maybe that's something that Seattle has to consider down the road. I went on a little bit of a tangent, but where I wanted to go is that if that backcourt doesn't have like a point forward, like we see Stewie be able to do, and I don't think they likely do. Maybe someone can evolve into that. I don't know that I see that on the roster. Well, yeah, as soon as she gets healthy. But yeah, I think you're right. Ezi's probably the closest, maybe Awa. But speaking of Awa, here's the thing. Got her first start, has been looking pretty solid. So now that the backcourt, in theory, could have a target, is that going to open things up? Because yeah, that's weird for Steph Dolson not to take that shot. Now I will entertain this. I can't speak to this. I'm not in the huddle. Sometimes there's a specific New York Liberty era that was very short-lived, but it did happen, and wild things happened where it was like a whole 5-out system, and the coach wanted everyone shooting from the perimeter. I don't know if that's the ask. I never got the sense that that was going to be something that Seattle did, just from how we hear Coach Sonia speak. So I don't know how much of that is coming from the coaching staff or like an ideology. It seems a little off to me, or maybe it's a misunderstanding, a misinterpretation of something. So why are we not taking shots in the paint? Is it a trepidation? Is it that, you're looking for a specific target? Because again, what we literally just said it. If you know the hot hand is Natisha Heidemann, do you want Steph Dolson taking a shot in the paint? I say yes. But also, if you got stuck in your head and you kind of override logic for just you short circuit, you're going to look for the hot hand and get a 3-pointer instead of, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying it's the right move. I'm just saying it's a little more complicated. It's a little complex. That also, maybe I could have simplified it to say, are they overthinking it?
Yes. And perhaps are the 3 points being, are they shooting the ball from the perimeter because they can't get the basket to the player in the paint, which we have been seeing a lot, the ball the turnovers, the ball can make its way to the paint, and even Awa and Dom being forced to stretch and shoot instead of going in the paint. So I believe that might also be one of the issues, and that ties to the story that you were saying about Nancy Lieberman. Yes, there are hot hands, but there are not wins. And then that's where it concerns. I was like, the Indiana Fever and Atlanta played today. The Fever won, and Caitlin Clark almost had a triple-double. She was 6 for 17, and her shooting percentage has been criticized. 6 for 17 is not ideal, and the Indiana Fever won. They haven't won other games, but they did win.
Right.
So what does that, here's the thing. She wasn't shooting that well, but she still distributed 7 assists. She still got 8 rebounds. And so she was not shooting well, but she was passing the ball to the players who had to shoot. So that says a lot about about a team that's working, because you have Aaliyah Boston with 19 points, and then you have Kelsey Mitchell with 27. So it's like the ball is getting to the people who need to get the ball, and that's so Caitlin Clark had 8 assists, which was extremely important for this team with 8 assists. Aaliyah Boston had made 6 field goals. How many of those came from Caitlin Clark? We know that Kelsey Mitchell can create her own shot, but she also benefits from Caitlin Clark's. But okay, I just want to make a point. Do you see how well I'm talking about Caitlin Clark?
I was wondering when you get to no,
I
but
just
like
want to
listen,
tap myself in
but
the
that's it's actually a perfect example. Because it's not an all or nothing, I think, is the joke that you and I can make. Like, there's a basketball case to bring Caitlin Clark up in this conversation, because Caitlin Clark, like the Seattle Storm, has been under scrutiny. Is your game one-dimensional?
Exactly. And for this game today, of course, like we still, Caitlin Clark had only 3 turnovers, which, I'm not saying that as a joke. Nominal. That's like an improvement for her. It's an improvement,
exactly.
Yeah, so she improved on turnovers. She distributed 8 assists and got 7 rebounds, and I think she also got a block. It was a really good game for a player who has been under a lot of scrutiny. It's just because this illustrates the Storm situation so well. Like, yes, 35, Caitlin Clark shooting 25% from the 3-point line is not what someone is going to expect from Caitlin Clark. the passing, and I've said that time and time again. I
It's my
think
favorite
Caitlin
part of her
Clark
game.
is one of the best passers in the
Favorite
league.
part of her game.
And she is primed to be one of the best passers in league history.
If she does what she's good at. And again,
Yes,
that's where
exactly.
it comes to the Seattle Storm. She had to work through that. She's gone through the criticism of not being good on defense. And even people like me, talking heads like me on CBS Sports, were like, the next evolution is to fix the part of the game that you know people are picking apart. So what are we? Is it eight games now?
I think so for
8
the
games,
Fever.
right? No, for Seattle.
Oh yeah, it's no, I think it's 11.
Oh, well, counting is not my
Wait.
strong suit.
8.
What's the record? I'm not looking at
11.
it right. Okay, so
3,
11.
8. Yeah, I was looking at that yesterday. It's 3.
Okay. So it's 10 games. It's more than 10 games. For me, that's enough to not only for other teams to scout you like we talked about earlier, but also you should be scouting yourself. Now you have enough intel, you have enough data to be able to say what are the tendencies that we like that we need to lean into, and what are the things that we really need to focus on squashing as a team. Like that's some of the work also that has to be done, and you're gonna have pieces that start to come back, so that's also gonna change, and that's not easy. It's not ideal for a coaching staff, but that's why they're the coaching staff. The coaching staff has to figure that out. The players have to. And this also is a part of what the coaching staff needs to do, but the players have to also be able to identify what's working for them, where they can optimize their individual games, and where they can set their teammates up to do that. And that just has to happen. It's understandable for this team to be frustrated. I think we have started to see some of that bubble over, and maybe not be direct chirping to their teammate, although you're seeing a little bit of that, and that's going to happen in basketball. But I think also just kind of like that, like the frustration, like, dang, another miss or another foul we didn't get called, or whatever the case is. And it's not necessarily a problem that if that is how you play and you express and you emote yourself that way all the time. This isn't, though, a team that naturally does that. So when you start seeing more of it, you can tell that the frustration is starting to build up, and that maybe it's overthinking also as a part of the correction process.
Yeah, and I had something that so you said it's 11 games. It's already a quarter of their season because it's 44 games, so they played 11. I actually asked Coach Sonia Raman yesterday's with you have a quarter of the season under your belt. What is the team's identity? What do you see of the game? And she said that it was togetherness and the ability to recover, right? That is because, and I think that makes sense for this team. I'll be honest. I think that's a fair assessment. This is a team that needs to stay together, and it's a team that needs to learn to recover on the go, because that's what they're going to get in holes. Like yesterday, they were 13 points behind. They rallied, they came back up, they ended up losing, but they did. And when they had that run, that's when you get those glimpses. And I think that that's what they need to take from this season. And that also takes me to something that Atisha Heidman said. That was also something that I asked. I asked her, you're coming from a 4-game loss. Coming ahead, you have playoff teams. What's, you're the leader of the team at this moment. What's your message? And she mentioned something about, knowing that the team can get together. She talked about how for them, it has to be a patient thing for them. And she said for us too, she said, at some point it's going to click. And when it clicks, you're going to see it. You're going to know that it's clicking. So both Coach Sonia's response and Atisha Heidman's response made me notice that they are all on the same page. They know where the team is at, and they know what the team's they know, let's say, ceiling. I've used that word a lot, but they know the team's ceiling, and they know where they're at, and they they trust that they're going to get to a point where that efficiency, that cohesive basketball is going to happen. So at least the message across the board is the same, which is something that was very different from the previous seasons.
Yeah.
So that is, I think that's what we can expect from this team. If we have positives to take these first games, it is that they are aligning with the future.
Yeah. And I want to come back to something that Jeff and Craig went back and forth on, because the rebounding is one thing that if I were on the coaching staff or on the team in any capacity, I would challenge us to start really looking at how many times we can win rebound battles. So looking at offensive rebounds, defensive rebounds, points off of rebounds, total rebounds, we even, again, not to make it about the New York Liberty, go watch Gotta Get Up for that. But, there was this moment where Stewie said she didn't like that she was getting fined $25 if as a team, they didn't box out off of a free throw. So there's so many ways to break this down to make it palatable and to make it like a progression, but overall have to focus on rebounds. And so Jeff is talking about, as a team, the shooting percentage is low. There needs to be a more designated offensive rebound crashers. We are leaving points on the offensive end. And I do think second chance points, a lot of people look at them in how they hurt you because you're not boxing out. But it's also an opportunity, right? If teams, because it seems to be quite the pandemic running rampant through all of basketball of not boxing out. So, it's kind of like baseball. Nobody uses small ball anymore. So if I were a baseball team, I would bunt all day. I would build a team of quick people and just play small ball, because defenses don't know how to do that because it's a lost art. Boxing out is a lost art. So why not crash the offensive boards? But then this is where Craig comes in and says, if you crash the boards too much, you don't get back on defense. That's the double-edged sword, because I think, and this is where when you have the quote unquote luxury of having time, you don't have to do both at the same time. You can really challenge your team to focus. You break it down to, the Woodens of the world. Like, this is how you put your socks on, this is how you get a rebound. I want this team to get this number of rebounds. I want to get to this percentage of, our points being off of offense, or whatever task it is, make a game within the game. And this team can do that. They can be methodical in how they focus on things. They just have to commit to that. Other teams don't have that luxury because they're expected to be in a championship contender window. That's not the case for this Seattle team. I hear what you're saying. Do you want to crash the offensive boards? And then you have to start working on transition, how many points in transition you give up. I don't know, Roberta. I say, I just want to see more rebounds, so I'm okay with it. Do you think this is a team that could get burned, though? Because we talked about them sometimes kind of ball watching. Is this a team that if they did start crashing the boards that you think would run the risk of, if they don't box out and get the rebound, then do you think transition points would be a compounded issue for the sake of trying to focus on improving something else?
But isn't it already? That's the thing. Like that's the thing for me.
Fair.
It's like choose one or the other, but don't let go of both. What we're seeing a lot is a lot of teams getting easy fast break points and second chance points against the Seattle Storm, and that's what we saw in the fourth quarter yesterday. So it's this. Oh, why is Natisha Heineman in the game's playing here? So Natisha Heineman is in Minnesota. Oh yeah, because they play there. Yeah, she's watching. Like she's literally. Hold on, because that's Storm related. So I'm gonna show.
Oh wow! Just making a little cameo on Prime. I love it. There must be doing a little Stud Buds promo. Okay, this is an extreme sidebar, but there are definitely more like in-game commercials that are being posed as interviews.
Yeah.
I mean, look at how far the game has come.
Good.
Yes, we do not own the rights to this footage, just to be clear. Don't come for me.
Oh yeah. Oh my god. It's less than 15 seconds, so I just thought it was interesting because
Yeah.
the game, it's a good game. Anyways, so I think that we're seeing a Seattle Storm that they're not getting boards and they're also not excelling at defense. Although I would say they do play decent defense, and sometimes it's the highlight of the team. It's not winning games. It is actually losing games. Yesterday, they lost games. Sorry.
Oh, no.
Yesterday.
Is everyone okay?
It's all good. Yesterday, they lost the game because they didn't defend. They didn't get the board and they didn't defend. So if you're already getting cooked in both, choose one.
Choose one, right? Just
choose
you're
one,
not
and then
gonna
you just
beat in
get
both,
and
right.
then you just get half baked. I don't know if that's. Let me recover my
Just get
iPad.
half baked. Now I want some ice cream. That's one of my favorite ice cream flavors. For real, half baked is so good. Like anything that has
Really?
like, oh yeah, like
I didn't know that was a flavor.
Oh, it is. So that's clearly what you were.
There's some weird ice cream names in the US. Like I recently learned Rocky Road. Like
Rocky, yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, there's some weird names here. I like fruit ice cream.
Fruit ice creams, yeah, that's more of a Latin thing. Okay, there was a question up here. I might not find it, but I will try to get you. Oh, here we go. Because you did mention some of this in Slack the other day, but what are the updates that we are getting with regard to Dominique Malonga and concussion protocol?
That's the thing. Like we the only updates that we get, and I think that's the frustrating part from both the fans and the media side, is that there is no update except for what is in the injury report, which is that she's out on concussion protocol. I reached out to Storm PR. It's a day-to-day thing. And I asked about the concussion protocol. They didn't have that information. So I dug a little bit, found the NBA protocol, reached out to League PR. Is that the same? That's the same. Okay. So there is a whole process that players have to go through. And I think that it backs the Storm's decision right now, because it doesn't necessarily, it doesn't has like hard terms for what a player has to be feeling, but it does indicate very directly what the player has to be able to complete fully before coming back to the game. So there are lots of hurdles, there are lots of physical and tests that a player has to go to. So there is a step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. If player goes step 1, great, and they go like after 5 days, 1, 2, 3, 4, and like in the final minutes of test 4, they fail, they have to go back
reset
to 1. So I think they are being extremely cautious, and maybe it's not, they don't necessarily want to play Dom right now because
Yeah, I mean, and I mean, anyone who's dealt with concussions, I mean, that is a head injury. And it's something that should be taken extremely seriously because of like, what are the cut and dry things, and like you said, it's more of the progression, I guess is how I would say. The progression is the test, not necessarily the individual activities, but it's the progression.
Yeah.
Because that goes a little bit more to function, which is usually what we hear talked about when we talk about being able to come back from anything that might be head related. So so that's kind of what we're going through. So I know it's not the answer that a lot of people want. I think also what is important to note, if it's not clear, that players, when they're listed on the status reports, basically the injury reports, they are not obligated to do media. And so we're also not hearing directly from Dom, because Dom technically can be I mean, you can make a request, but the request does not have to be honored. It does not have to be honored. And so
it's
that's another
interesting.
thing. Yeah.
It's interesting because the protocol says that they should avoid straining activities, and they should avoid large crowds. So like she can't do media, but she can attend games
Yeah, the
with
game.
really heavy lighting. And I think I said here that like I've like theoretically, like in paper, I am still recovering from a concussion that happened 2 months ago. Although I feel much better, when I hit a certain heart rate while I'm exercising, I get headaches and I get dizzy. And I'm not even close to being a high level athlete. So the stakes are much higher for Dom. And like I said, I can empathize with that, because the Storm is not in a win now season. I personally would prefer Dom to fully recover and be completely well, so she doesn't have any further issues. Like, concussion is no joke. It's being true, and since the WNBA free agency, and my coaches at CrossFit, they still, every class, they ask, how are you feeling? Are you feeling dizzy? So it's, and players have to be monitored 24 hours for God.
And so Megan McPeak was on the broadcast, and they talked a little bit about this. That was the game against Phoenix, I think, right? Or did I say Megan? I hope I said Megan McPeak and not Monica McPeak, because now I was
you said Megan.
Okay, good. I was like, I don't know, because I've been thinking of Monica McNutt, who's calling the Knicks game. Anyway, so Megan made a really good point also, that the abundance of caution perhaps that we're seeing is also because this is in a short period of time.
Yes.
We've seen Dominique Malonga go into concussion protocol, and some of that was with the national team. Like, she did not complete the qualifying tournament with concussion protocol. So just wanted to go through that. It's not ideal, and it stinks that we don't get to hear from Dom just from what we do, and it's not more important than her long-term health as a human, let alone a basketball player. Some other things that had come up here. Elijah, I saw you put this in the chat earlier, and I wanted to circle back to it. Do you think Coach Sonia Raman is having growing pains as a head coach, being in the WNBA for the first time in this role? I want to specify. I want to specify that this is her first head coaching role in the WNBA, not her first head coaching role, and is also not her first year in the WNBA. Yeah. That being said, comparative to some other head coaches, both are limited, or not as much as other coaches. So I just want to place that into context as we have this conversation. I think, of course, we can expect growing pains with a new coach to Seattle. But this is also a first-time WNBA head coach. So, of course, we're going to see that. And I do think that Sonia is process-oriented. And so expecting certain results is more of this doesn't look good. It doesn't feel good. We don't like this discomfort, excuse me, as opposed to me thinking, at least right now, my opinion may change. But when I'm hearing what I see and what I know about her background, Coach Sonia, she likes process. And similarly to Sandy Brondello, who she worked under at the New York Liberty, I think she is willing to go through ugly. She's willing to go through early losses for the purpose of gathering data and being clear on how to execute the solution. I think she's
Sorry,
go ahead.
I thought you were done.
Go.
No, she is she's an extremely smart woman. She is, she coached at MIT for years. I think that in order for you to do anything at MIT, you need to
Engineer
be
brain, right?
above the average is smart. And
Yeah.
sometimes by the way someone speaks and the way someone talks, they're smart. And what I can notice from Sonia is that it's like her brain is constantly working and painting a picture. And what I've learned is that a characteristic of smart, analytical numbers people is that they are not immediate results, or at least they are very realistic. And in order for you to achieve results, you have to know what's ahead of you, what's in front of you, so you can work towards what you want. I believe that Sonia Raman knew what was going to be given to her. She knows what her team is. She knows where the league is. She knows where the Seattle Storm is. And she is doing what she can do with this team right now. So I think that growing pains are 100% happening and going to happen because, it's her first time as a head coach in the WNBA, which is the highest level that you can go for women's basketball. And it's also a very tough market for coaches. So there are growing pains, and but she's going through them. I think that she's managing to go through them, just with she's being very cerebral about everything. We can't even compare first time WNBA head coaches, because when you look at Jose Fernandez with the Dallas Wings, completely different situation, completely different approach, because it is a different team with different
It's a different
expectations,
team.
with
He's also got
different
a
characters.
wildly different style.
Exactly.
Wildly
Exactly.
different style.
Yeah. So it's like the type of growing pains are different. And I think that for the Seattle Storm, having that very, pragmatic presence as a head coach right now is, I think it's very important.
Yeah, I want to come to a question that Craig had for you earlier, Roberta. Did you see some players talking to each other like they weren't where they were
Yep.
supposed to be? So like just
Mm-hmm.
miscommunication or missing your cue, missing your role, your spot.
Yeah, I think Cragen hadn't gone in here yet. It was one of the first things that we mentioned, that we see that a lot from the point guards, Jade Melvin and Natisha Hyman. They constantly have to be like, get yourself in your position, move here. Of course, the point guards do that, but what I'm talking about is when like a point guard has to stop and take a lot of time to try to be like, that's where you have to be, go that way, come this way. That has been happening a lot. We see that, and the hesitation to go to the basket. So that is an issue that has been happening, and that has been hindering this team.
Yeah. So, Jeff, I am not putting that up, man. I think it could be worded differently. And so just think on that. What I will say is one of my other favorite words, sandpaper.
Sandpaper.
A little bit of sandpaper, and that sandpaper, to go off of how you responded to Craig's question, is coming from the guards, and the frustration is coming in the backcourt as well. But you need someone who, and I do believe this, talk about it on our other show, got to get up all the time. You need someone who can at least get to the paint to establish that as a threat for the opposing defense. Because if you have players in the paint, but you can't get the ball, you can't do an inlet pass, then defenses are not going to take you seriously. If you can get the ball to the paint, but your forwards and centers aren't going to shoot the ball in the paint, they're not going to take that seriously. So what does that mean? It makes it hard for your mid-range and perimeter shooters to do what they do best, because now the defense is, they're leaving the middle exposed, right? So So I think a little bit more of that is what we need to see from the team overall. And I like a little sandpaper in my leadership. I do think, though, the pragmatic approach that you said versus Jose and his approach is very, 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 very different.
Also, very different team. Just like
and that's my point. That's exactly my point. Is that you have to build good front offices and likely successful franchises build so that they have a combination of player that can respond to a specific type of coach and a coach that can respond and empower and motivate a specific type of player. Not to make it all about the Indiana Fever, but hasn't that been part of the conversation? Now, I do think that conversation has gone well beyond some of the things that are reasonable to talk about in basketball. I think of Brenda Freese, right? Brenda Freese got up in her player's face, but she did not yell in her face. That's different. Some players need you to lock in. When they say you need to lock in, they need you to lock in, but that doesn't mean they need you to yell at them. Other players, they might not need you to lock in. Don't look at me, but talk, say some stuff that's going to get me oh, that's how you feel. Watch this. It's different. It's different. It's different. I do think Sonia's approach works for the personnel she has on this roster. And so I don't think that we have enough information right now to say if this is a flaw in coaching and communication coming from coaching. Right now, my assessment from what we're seeing and what we're hearing, to your point, Roberta, is that everyone is on the same page that this is an execution flaw. That there is a flaw in how this team is able to execute the plan, how they're able to be consistent with the plan, or maybe at times, even if they know the plan, which in fairness, if you have a team that doesn't understand the plan and they can't execute the plan, then maybe the plan is the problem. I don't think we're there yet either. I don't think we're there yet. I do think it's just more of a traditional or a flat out execution issue.
Yeah, I think it's just I think it's execution. I think it's
exactly Striatic. We need some P&V. That's from my Seattle Kraken days.
What is P&V?
Piss and vinegar.
Oh, that sounds like
that's a Ryan. Yeah, exactly. It's a Ryan Donato classic. A Ryan Donato classic for sure.
It's. I think that this thing. Sorry, I got lost with the game because it's very close.
It is 75-70 with just under 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, but the sandpaper with the Storm.
Golden State is up. Sorry, just to be clear, Golden State up on Minnesota. Woo!
It's good. I don't know what's up with Cheryl Reeve outfit though. But it has anyways. But yeah, I feel like I've always liked Cheryl Reeve's outfits, but this season it just hasn't been doing it for me. So I don't know if that's the right thing to say if I said it wrong. All respect. So yeah, I think the sandpaper with the Seattle Storm, Natisha Heidman brings that, and she has been but at some point it's almost like you're putting like a band-aid on something, and not letting it fully heal, because at the end of the day you want the plays to be executed, right? And if you're not executing them, then you have to find a way to score. And that's what we're seeing with the Seattle Storm. Right. They're running a lot of one-on-one. It's not, I don't even think it's like intentional ISO. I think it's just what they have, that's what we have to do if we want to score, because it's not going another way.
Yeah, like player kind of taking over.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
not in a bad way, but just it's like we gotta try to score,
Yeah,
like you said.
exactly.
And I don't think it's reached a tipping point one way or another yet.
No.
That's why again, this isn't because we've seen there's some players who I think are phenomenal players that are Hall of Fame
Mm-hmm.
players that they get a bad rap because people think that they are selfish players when if you look at some of the rosters, sometimes they were the only playmaker if things fell through regardless of their
Mm-hmm.
position. And maybe yes, I'm talking about Tina Charles, I don't know, but I think that we're not in a situation where I think it's like ball hogging or things like that.
Yeah.
If
No,
anything,
I don't think that's the
if
case, though.
anything, it's the other, and we've already talked about this, right? It's maybe overthinking, like, oh, I can make one more pass and get so and so the ball, or
Mm-hmm.
this might be the better shot. And it's that overthinking. It's that maybe you need to be a little bit more selfish. And it's like if you see the rim, you know how you lock in on something and you just see it like big in your
Yeah.
eyes. When you just shoot
Yeah.
your shot, shoot your shot.
Yeah, there's a thing in
Go
the
play
yeah,
basketball.
yeah. There's a thing like for people who play video game, you can lock a target and
Yes, I
then
like
your character only move towards it. I feel that sometimes players just need to lock onto the basket and head towards
Yeah.
that.
I like what Striatic says here. I do think the Storm have moxie, though. Another one of my favorite words. Striatic knows a few of my faves. They give a damn. I do think that's true. And we're
Yeah.
hearing that. They're not making excuses and they're trying to offer themselves grace and trusting the process. Striatic goes on to say the way they were stealing the ball and trying to get it back versus the Mercury. I like watching that, and that's again, when you continue those habits, eventually it becomes enough, and you
Mhm.
don't lose on free throws down the stretch.
Yeah.
It turns but if you don't have these habits and the moxie, the sandpaper, the P&V that Striatic is talking about here, then you're not making those hustle plays. And it's the hustle plays that inevitably start to turn the tide. Because those are things you can control. You can't,
Mhm.
to some extent, you can't control if you go to the rim and a foul is called or not. You can't
Yeah.
control if, you can try to eliminate, but you can't 100% guarantee that someone's not going to try and block your shot or be
Yeah.
successful in blocking your shot. You can only put yourself in the best position to make a basket. If I don't make this basket, I'm likely going to get fouled. And if I get fouled, it's going to be called because I was going to finish like I was going to make the basket and I didn't anticipate to the point where now I'm not going to
Yeah.
get that call. Like those are all things that you can only do if you commit to it. It's the same as defense. See, I told you I'd get back to defense before we close out the show. It's the same thing on defense. Good defenders are good defenders because they decide to. And I'm not talking about in the Candace Parker way. I've talked about that lore on Black Rosie Media for a while. I'm talking about good defenders are people who decide that they're going to go for the 50-50 ball. They're going to, anticipate the gaps and be able to close those gaps quickly. They're going to communicate that, they're going to make those hustle plays. And you need some of that too. And that can also help to spark offense, not just in transition, but it becomes your confidence. It becomes you're building that moxie. And those are things that, yes, we do see from the Seattle Storm team, which is like, to go back to the term you used, do I think they're completely cooked, barbecued? No. Do I think they're a playoff team? Not right now. Could they maybe surprise me? I think it's possible, but they have a lot of learning to do if they want to make a case to be a contender down the road, not necessarily this year.
Yeah, no, I agree 100% with you. I was reading Kevin Pelton, who was with ESPN and he's now with the Connecticut Sun. He wrote an amazing I don't know if the right thing is article, but he has a Substack and he's really big on statistics and numbers, and he wrote about some of the lessons that he learned from sports journalism and how like you have to respect what is outside of that number prediction. You have to respect the outside probability. And that's the thing about sports. I think those of us who love sports, those are the things that get us. You don't expect. That's why we love when there's an underdog. When we love when there is a Cinderella story in the NCAA. So, can the Storm do that? Yeah, they can. Are they likely to do that? They're not. And that's. I think that it is okay to accept where you're at, because that means that you can prime your future, and
Yeah.
that's a fair thing. That's the WNBA is gonna be here for a long time. If you want your franchise to win, now might not be the best moment for them to win, so they might need to look to the future.
But you build the habits now.
Yes.
And I do
Yes.
think that, again, not all of the habits are there, but the willingness to commit is. That's the sense I
Mhm.
get from this team. They
I
know they're
agree.
not executing, and they're committed to figuring it out. I don't
I
see them
agree.
giving up on plays. I see them maybe overthinking. I see them getting lost in plays, but that's not the same as giving up on a play. That's not the same as giving up on a game. And that's what I think Striatic was getting to.
Yeah.
So listen, it's not cooked. It's not fully barbecued here. This is a part of a process. These are the growing pains. And again, it's what we talked about before the season started. That's what makes this team potentially really exciting.
Yeah.
And we have to see where Dominique Malonga is. We talked, I think, in detail about that process. Ezi Magbagor is someone else. We're kind of in that window where we're expecting to hear some news, and now it's kind of a hurry up and wait. But again, not someone you necessarily want to rush back. And Awa Fam. I loved seeing Awa in that starting lineup. And it goes back to something we went on so many amazing, but truly tangents. But you mentioned that the starting lineup is going to finish. I want to talk about that on the next show, because we're already starting to see it.
Yeah.
You know how I feel about Awa starting. I was like, you could have given me that, like however many games
day
ago,
she got
and I would have been
here. Yeah.
exactly, and I would have been happy. But I do think this is going to change. And you said something earlier that we're seeing kind of how the second unit might respond, because right now they are the first unit.
Mhm.
They are the only unit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yes, rotations, and I do see that the Storm are getting a lot of dings for rotations, but that's going to come when there are more bodies to rotate.
Exactly. Right now they have to do with what they have.
Okay.
Things are getting also cheap
I was
with
gonna
the
say,
Valkyries and the Lynx.
I'm just looking at the score. I haven't even been able to see the live action, but 77-75 with 4:44 left. Minnesota now has the lead, and they're at home. So we're gonna wrap up here on Tempestade Talk, so y'all can catch the end of that game. But Roberta, I know we've talked about this, but another thing and a consideration that I'm not saying it is a part of the consideration, at least not yet. But if we start seeing players like Dominique Malonga or Ezi Magbagor just on the Storm, but also league-wide, the closer we get to July, the more interesting I think it's going to be for players and their WNBA teams to have what might be a difficult conversation about rest and conditioning, because we know that there are a decent amount of players, including the US born, that have to get ready for the FIBA World Cup, which will happen in September. We're not there yet, but because we're going to start talking about it now and getting a feel for what is the process for international players who now are preparing for a FIBA World Cup for the first time to be within the WNBA season. There will be a FIBA World Cup break, and we've never seen that in this schedule in this way. So it's going to be really interesting to see if there are minutes restrictions or, things like conditioning or players being listed as probable the closer we get to World Cup, but especially coming on the other side of World Cup.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to talk about that. But let's close it here. Thank y'all for tuning in and having great comments, great questions. We don't always agree, which if you know me, I actually live for that. I live for good debate, good basketball debate, and we definitely have that more often than not on Tempestade Talk. So for Roberta F. Rodriguez, I am Erica L. Ayala, and you have been listening and watching Tempestade Talk, your local eye on the Seattle Storm, brought to you by Black Rosie Media. We record usually on Thursdays, but if that schedule will change, make sure you're following Black Rosie Media at Black Rosie Media on all platforms, and we will have the updated schedule for you. All right, good night, everyone. And I don't know, let us know in the chat before you leave. Are you rooting for Golden State or are you rooting for Minnesota in this game? All right, peace out, everybody.
Bye, everyone.